Hello world, this is Zan. I'm going to be making here an overview on how I analyze nations. So I have TienChi on the board, but I do apologize, this won't be a national guide on TienChi. Ideally, I would do that after I've played a full game with them. But maybe I'll dip my toes in a little bit of it. Now, the reason I'm doing all this is I'm going through another period where, and this happens a little way too often for me, where I might not have the time I want to dedicate to creating content, recording videos, doing fun stuff for you guys. I really want to. And I know national nation guides are actually one of the most requested thing I've gotten, um, but it's rough. And I really would love to play the nation first, and then make a guide on it because then I've jumped through the hoops of the nation. I've been presented with problems and had to solve solutions under pressure, not just theory. Uh, but time is difficult. So I figured, okay, you guys want nation overviews. I want to give them to you, but I can't right now. Maybe later, probably later. In the meantime, what I can do is talk to you guys on how I approach uh, a nation, whether it be for an overview, whether it be because I'm going to play a game as them, whatever. So I have a few steps in what I do, and this is always set in stone. I kind of wing it, but maybe I can help you. Maybe I can help you guys understand, I guess, what to look for, right? And then I might do some weird pauses here and there. I don't know how to edit yet, although that is on the list of things to learn. And those pauses are going to be me jotting down times of things so that I can annotate them and add them to the YouTube videos for you guys, and that way you can like skip exactly to where you want. So step one. When I look at the nation, the first and most important thing to me is going to be the lore of the nation, uh, the story of the nation. And this is because motivation is a huge factor in how well you play in Dominions. Um, most players that I've seen get annexed, I would say more than 50% of them have to do in some way to a motivational failure to or a lack of desire to continue playing. When you're demotivated, when you're distracted, you're going to make a lot of sloppy mistakes. And Dominion is a game where you spend months building something up, building your sandcastle, and one mistake can lose you all of it. And often, what happens is after you lose a really big battle that lose a lot of resources, whatever, you're done. You're just gonna. Most players just give up right there and then the rest of them gets taken over, and they don't really put up a fight, and that sucks. And I think one of the counters for that is definitely motivation um, for the game, and to a nation-specific point that can come from liking or appreciating the aesthetic, the story, the lore, the mythology of the nation you're playing. So to me, uh, the most important thing when deciding on a nation is definitely going to be that, the lore of it, because there are nations out there that mechanically are what I want to play, but I dislike their aesthetics so much that I know if I go in a game as them, I'm not going to give it my all. Maybe I'll take that big loss and just be done with it. And I don't want to do that. So that's step one when you look at a nation. Step two, you're going to go now and just do a quick review of the national features. This isn't always entirely accurate, and maybe that's more due to the meta of where I play, maybe. But it gives you a good idea of what to expect. So national features for early age TNG. You have humans, cool. Their military is versatile and well equipped, and they have noble chariots. And that's actually fairly accurate. For the early age, they have fantastic equivalent, and these chariots are awesome. We'll get there. Magic-wise, they have a lot of paths. They have very, very wide paths. Um, and then they say at the end here, summon celestial beings. Okay, so maybe there's some sort of summoning rider that's going to be important for the nation. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's not even bad because they have so many paths. They're going to have all of these gems. They're going to have a gem advantage over most of their neighbors that have narrow but tall paths. So they should be able to afford these celestial beings if, we haven't looked at them yet, if they are spread out throughout the gem types. Average priests, that's fine. Sometimes that's important if you're playing a nation like Kalisa, that they rely a lot on their sacreds traditionally. Traditional Kalisa. I don't know if there's some crazy strategies out there. Traditional Kalisa relies a lot on their sacreds, but they have a very hard time blessing them. Their priests are very expensive and they kind of suck. Um, So that's something we got to keep in mind here, because summon celestial beings, if these celestial beings are sacred, blessing them in mass might become difficult if our priests were weak. But since they're average, and spoilers, we have the Master of the Dead. He's cheap Holy One. Yeah, we'll probably be fine. Standard forts for the age. This is fine. I mean, most, maybe 9 out of 10 of your forts are just going to be a basic fortress anyways for the 2 CP, or just whichever one gives you 2 CP. But occasionally you do, it is nice to have a citadel here and there. Unfortunately, we're in the early age, and standard forts, that's not going to happen. And then a pretend name. Okay, so no one cares about that. So we'll move on to the next bit. And the next bit, I start moving, so step 3 here, I start going from, in this black box here, this black rectangle, I go from the bottom up. I go to the sites first, and this doesn't matter to me because there's just recruitment. We'll get to that later. But this one's important because of the gems. The gem types of the nation, or at least the gems in your capital site, tell me what your first war can rely on. Your first war, or maybe your first globals. A good example for that's Pangea. Everyone knows Pangea. Their cap site is literally 4 to 6 nature gems per turn. They're going to take Mother Oak, and you probably can't do anything about it initially because of their national income there. Your first war and the first 20, 30 turns of the game, this is going to be your gem income, or the vast majority of it will be this. So I know going into this nation that I can have a reliable astral and water income with some amount of fire and death. And then the recruitment and whatever boost astral range, that's kind of whatever, no one really cares. But this is important to give me the idea of maybe what research goals I go for, maybe what items I can craft, because this will be the majority. You can expect your gem income on turn 20 to be this number here, these gems here multiplied by 20, and that will likely be about 80% of your gems. And these are just numbers I'm throwing out. So the next step, since that was quick, is the troops. Because I don't want to really look at the mages without knowing what the troops are capable of, because there's some nations that they use their troops to kill things, and their mages are just there as support. And there are other nations where their troops exist to stand in front of their mages and get killed, so their mages can do things. So if you don't know what the troops do, there's not really point in looking at their mages because you don't know what spells the mages are going to be casting, and that changes a lot. So TienChi has a lot of troops. They have a lot of stuff, and I really this is the second time I tried to record this video. I don't want to get too in depth on the units because I did that last time, and then it was like it was more of an EA TienChi overview rather than a guide on how to review nations. So let me actually take a note. Troops part 2. Troops part 2. So kind of going through them, I know this is an early age nation. I'm going to be playing in the early age, so there are things I need to realize that the enemy I will face can consist. There's going to be a larger amount of giants. There's going to be a lot more elves, and what troops there are in general are going to be, they're going to have less armor than normal. So these are 3 factors that at least when I go into an early age game, I'm going to consider. There's going to be a lot of elves, there's going to be a lot of giants, and what troops there are, be they elves, humans, or giants, are going to have less armor. So with that knowledge, I can go in and look at this footman, for example. And most people will look at this and say, this is trash. I will look at this and say, well, he's 10% cheaper than an average infantryman, assuming an average human has 10 across the board in all stats. He has less defense skill, but higher attack skill. And the most important thing of all, he hits really hard with the pike. 17 Pierce is really good. You hit him with Strength of Giant. Since this is a 2-handed weapon, it's now going to be 22 Pierce. That's fantastic. 3 to a square. This is good. His stats suck. Fine. Add quickness. This guy loves quickness. His encumbrance is very low. He hits really hard, and he's going to repel. He loves his stats. Great. So I know that hitting this guy with quickness is going to be pretty good. On another note, in terms of fighting giants, I know there's some calculations with size where a tall unit hitting a smaller unit can hit their helmet. This is something I think I read a long time ago on the Ilwiki. Logi or so can confirm it if I'm wrong, but the half helmet is a very, very, very good helmet. 18 protection at no cost to yourself and very little resource cost. Crazy, crazy good. So they have a good helmet. Anyways, So with what I've just talked about the footmen, this guy can kill giants. Because we're going to be 3 to a square, we're going to be hitting really hard. And odds are the giant will be 2 or 1 to a square fighting these guys, and you buff these guys and they'll kill it. The glaive user is almost the same deal. This guy is who you would recruit. So this is a very good defensive unit. It has very good defense skill, relying on the tower shield. So if my mages are very capable, maybe I can produce this unit instead, and my mages will kill stuff. But if I need my troops to kill stuff, I want to build either this guy or this guy, maybe both. They have an archer, and the first thing when you look at an archer is their costs. Are they cheap? If so, you can make them. And because they're cheap, now you double check. Do I have air magic? Yes. Do I have fire magic? Yes. Why? Because wind guide and flaming arrows is legitimate. That kills things. Unfortunately, if you're using these guys, you don't want to do that because these guys will die very fast to wind guided flaming arrows for friendly fire. But they're different, things. You're going to use these two-handers to kill giants, whereas maybe you use these shielded troops with the flaming arrow archers to kill elves. And then after you've done this check, now you go and you say, oh crap, a composite bow. This is pretty good. So I have a tool for giants already. Cool. I have a tool for elves. And then humans. Humans tend to have a lot of mass. They tend to have a lot of stats, and they tend to not hit very hard. You have a lot of two-handers, actually. But so to the human end of it, you can build these guys because they have really good armor. Their stats kind of suck, though. But that's fine. You have these guys. Maybe you can build these guys and still do the archer strategy to fight the humans, because humans likely don't have really good armor, and this might be effective. So I can see archers and these heavy footmen being good against human nations. Archers and, I mean, maybe even elves. Elves don't hit pretty hard either. And then, your two-handers to fight giants. So I have solutions to some of my problems. I'm not a big fan of these medium variety, because you're paying 30% more resources for 10% more armor and 50% more encumbrance. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Whatever. Okay, and we have cavalry. Cavalry's great. Cavalry is great, but this one sucks. Because the first thing you check when you look at cavalry, at least the first thing I check when I look at cavalry, is their defense skill. 12 defense is miserable for a cavalryman, and that's because he doesn't have a shield. 12 defense is miserable for a cavalryman. The only reason they're any good in this game, my opinion, hot take or whatever, is cavalry tends to have very high defense ratings for a unit. So even though that they are 2 to a square often, they're really high defense, and their resistance to harassment penalties make cavalry a lot more durable than you would expect them. And not terms durable might not be the right word. More like they last longer in combat than you'd expect such a squishy unit with usually lower stats but very high defense. The cost is fine. 20 gold for a cavalry unit's good. 11 resources cheap. 24 recruitment points is fair. Map move is high. Combat speed is high. But then on top of all of that, they have a light lance, and that's a weak charge bonus on top of the very low defense. I wouldn't recruit these guys. I wouldn't count on them. And that's totally fine. We're going to look at a sacred and we're going to be like, okay, cool. The price is fair. The resources are low, so thinking sloth here. Recruitment points are high, so we need order. And he already comes with a suite of resistances, which means he only really needs stats, which is fine because that's what he wants, because he hits not very hard. But if I do go for a bless on this nation, strength seems important, and just mainly stats, because if I want it to revolve around this guy, just on what I see here, great, he's got resistances. Strength of Spring is weird, but I'm not going to get into that. Nobles, high cost across the board, so if I want to get this guy, I want to go order and production. But otherwise, really high defense, 15. I mean, for nearly a cataphract style unit, 15 defense is really good. He does have a shield, and his protection is 18 in the early age. This guy's in plate armor in the early age. I mean, not really, he's in scale mail, but he has the carriage for the chariot, giving him 5 nut prot. And he tramples. This guy can expand. This guy can raid. This guy can do a lot. is really good. He has map move 18 despite this obscenely heavy armor. Holy cow, this guy's amazing. Great. So having looked at the roster, I can already say I have an answer to giants. I have an answer to elves. I can compete against humans. Think humans, I'm thinking like All Mights or Arxithalian troops, whatever. I can compete against them. Maybe not my best matchup, but I can fight them. And, well, no, never mind. This is my answer to humans. I want to go fight Ulm or Arctocephaly. I send a bunch of nobles at them, just trample them. These guys will suck against giants, though. So I have a lot of specialized tools in my troops that can actually kill things. I don't need my mages to do the killing for me. I have troops that can do that, which is good. Now that troops are finally done, apologize if that might have taken too long. I'm trying not to get into as much details, but I consistently fail. We can go to the commanders. And we have basic scout. Fortunately, it's not wreck anywhere. That'd be a dream. We have a noble commander, which is just a regular noble with better stats across the board. It's 105 gold and 1 recruitment point. That's really good. Due to that armor and this high defense skill and trampling, I would guess that one of these guys can take on 6 PD by himself without any gear. For 105 gold, you can raid 6 PD and come out on top. Great. 10 might be an issue. But 6, I think one of these guys can walk over 6 PD, no problem. However, 10 PD, you can send 2 of these guys, or maybe one of these guys and one noble on like guard commander. Maybe that'll work well. But it's, if I want to raid, there is a lot worse than spending 2 CP and 210 gold to take out 2 of these guys and send them out. That's really good. This guy is literally a tank. So if I want to raid, my option is 210 gold, and I have map move 20 raiders that are just going to wall up province defense. 2 of these can definitely take on 10 PD easily without breaking a sweat. Cool. So I have an option to raid. That's pretty much my only troop commander. What's his leadership? A +1 with an 80, so he has formations. Yeah, this is really good. That high map move is awesome. The stats are awesome. He has a shield. He has a lot of armor, so he's not going to get sniped. This is fantastic. And now we finally get to the mages. Okay, so now I know this is huge. What spells mages are going to be casting? That's what people play Dominions for, right? So everything we have has led up, like everything I've looked for in this nation has led up to this moment. And we're going to look. Okay, so our first mage, 70 gold, 2 CP, good. Map move 16, good. He's a Death 1, Holy 1, 7 research. And he's sacred. Cool. This tells me this is a very efficient research mage because, now their upkeep's going to be halved. And, you're paying 10 gold per research, that's kind of like the bar that you usually want to set on what is considered good research. Can a Death 1 do stuff? Not particularly. Like Dust to Dust is good. They can curse super combatants with a Death Gem, which you have from your capital. So that's viable. In extreme cases, you can give these guys 5 Death Gems and have them cast 5 Horde of Skeletons, and that'll be fine. Same thing if they want to do... oh no, I guess Shadow Blasts. You would need Death 2 to cast it because it's Death 2 in a gem. So maybe not. But hey, 5 times Horde of Skeletons is not horrible. And again, yeah, wreck anywhere out of forts. Now your other mage here, Master of the Way, this is very important down here, can be recruited outside of forts as well. So if you get a random lab from an event, you can drop a temple on it and start recruiting these guys, which is neat because you need a lot of them. And then that might be spoilers, but let's look through them. 135 gold, 9 research. So they're, by the metric we just set, they're not good researchers, but they're 2 CP, map move 16, good. And our path is water, holy 1, and then a random. And these randoms in the grand scheme of nations are not quite good. But for what we have already learned of early age TienChi, these randoms are almost exactly what we want. I think if they had an Earth random, they would be perfect. But they don't, so that's okay. And why do I say that? Well, every unit in our roster, I mean, maybe less so the Spearmen. Oh no, because it's going to give them more defense. Every unit in our roster benefits greatly from quickness. These two-handed units hitting twice a turn is really good. They're desperate for stats because clearly they're as average as it gets. So quickness is I think the key spell to cast so far from what I've seen. Quicken all of these two-handed footmen with the glaives, and they'll tear shit up. These pikemen, especially, they're going to repel things more. They're going to actually be able to dodge with now 10 defense after being buffed. Imagine. The shield guys will have more defense. They might encumber quicker because of the shield, but they'll last longer in combat, ideally. So having that water path's already good. Whoops. Having the water path's already good. And now when we go to the randoms, um, the nature random's already going to be good by default because water nature is both Moss Body and Foul Vapors. You give them a Thistle Mace and Foul Vapors. Really, really good. Game changing. It's broken as hell. Game changing. Nature randoms on their own can already do a bunch of things. Tangle Vines, Swarm. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Imagine being hyper blessed Van here or Hell Hurting, and then you get hit by Tangle Vines, and there's a bunch of people with two-handed glaives and quickness swinging at you. You're probably dead. Astral randoms. Perfect. We have masses of cheap, hard-hitting human troops. Wouldn't they love Body Ethereal and Luck? Yeah, probably. Okay, so far my strategy, having read through this nation, has found me that their troops are really good, but they need a little help. And these mages that I'm looking at, these Master of the Ways, almost have perfect paths to help those troops. They don't have fire. They don't need fire. You don't buff your troops with fire very often. Um, you want to do things like quickness. You want to do body theory. You want to do luck. You want to do protection, wooden warriors. These are the paths to do it. Now, that air path, I'm going to be honest with you, that looks to me like he's just going to make owl quills or research or do something. I don't know what he's going to do. In a pinch, maybe I can steal breath on a super combatant or, lightning bolt with an air gem, but that's the one that to me is a little bit awkward. That's fine. Now we have the cap only mages. Okay, cool. So this is my mid game right here. So my Master of the Way is my mid game. Now the cap only mages are different. This is going to be my first war, my hard hitters, my big ritual casters. And my first one is going to be a Master of the Five Elements. It's going to be 255 gold, but it's only two recruitment points, so one per turn. Cool. Keep in mind, now this is 255 gold per turn. But they have 6 paths. 6 paths. That's insane. And 17 research per turn. So if I want to rush research, I have this guy as an option. Because although he's not efficient, he's not 10 gold per research point. He is, what is this, 9.5 or 8.5 research points per recruitment point. So 9.5 per recruitment point, 7 per recruitment point. No, wait. No, my math is completely off. If he was slow to recruit, he'd be 9.5. He is, no. Oh my gosh, I'm tired. I'm so sorry. I'm doing this after work. I needed a longer nap. So this is 9.5 research per recruitment point. This is, not you, this is 3.5 per recruitment point. That's a humongous difference per turn. If I spend 10 turns recruiting these guys, I have 70 research. If I spend 10 turns recruiting these guys, I have 170 research. Maybe later in the game, mid-game, late game, that won't matter as much. But early game, having that much of a research lead can be substantial if you get your super key research before the next guy. So Research Rush is now on the board because of this guy. This super wide path, and this is random, it's just +1, any of these paths, except Holy. This super wide path tells me something else too. He can sight search like a monster. So I'm going to have a gem income advantage over the other guy because I have these monster sight searching. That's really good. And then for troop buffing, they have Earth, and they can random Earth too, and I think that might be, in my eyes, the most valuable because so far we have a troop buffing strategy. Now the other cap only mage, this guy is slow to recruit, 320 gold. So it's 160 gold per turn for this one. He flies, which can be useful. And let me just double check. They're all your mages are mat move 16. Good. So this guy flying and mat move 16 means there's a lot less time him just sitting in base doing nothing or travel time. He can sit in base and research and then fly for the important battle that you need him. Research wise, yeah, no. This guy sucks because he's slow to recruit. Pathwise, interestingly enough, okay, so we have Water 2, Holy 2 with Astral. So in a pinch, our average priest, quote unquote, can communion into Holy 3s and Divine Blessing. So we're going to check that box. That's an important box to have. And then let's look at our randoms. So at least Air 2, Water 3, or Astral 2. All three of those paths are fantastic. And then an additional path down here. And these can be okay. Although we can note Fire Death Cross Path gives us boosters. Fire Water also gives us some boosters if we can bump it up. So that's pretty good stuff to know. The Air 2 variety can Magic Phase. The Astral 2 with a hat can Magic Phase. Astral Earth Cross Path is important. These are all good things. These are all very good things. So we can take note of that. These guys actually, as opposed to the other three mages we've looked at, these guys can actually kill things. These guys can kill things pretty good. Falling Frost is great. Fire Evocation is great. Air Evocation is great. Astral Crap is great. Everything here is good. This can kill things. Now, how much do we really need to do that? Most of our strategies so far, at least from my point of view looking at this nation, has come to the conclusion that I want my troops to kill things, and I want my mages to support them. Now, if something comes around that maybe I can't kill with my troops, or maybe I need that extra oomph, that's where I can fly one of these idiots in, and they can provide that extra whatever it is that I needed. That big spell, the big battlefield-wide spell, or maybe some evocations. Or, of course, just cast rituals because they have high paths. Whatever. So that's everything I gain from this screen. Now, the stuff I don't gain from this screen are going to be the summons and the spells. And really, there's something I did when I started trying to mod or looking at some other mods, where you add a hidden site down here, and it lists, like in this format, your summons. And I thought that was really cool. And if Illwinter watches this or hears about this, I think they should implement that. Add an extra site down here that's clickable, and it shows you all your like hidden troops or summons or whatever. I think that's pretty cool. But regardless, we're going to move now into the summons. All things, again, you consider for a nation. And here, I'm still not good at editing videos, so I've just summoned everything. Now we'll go through them, and this will be quick. Sacred. Sacred, hard-hitting dude that flies and patrols very well. Sacred, hard-hitting dude. This is like a size 3 Garm hurting. Berserker, Amphibious, Spirit Sight. Let me double check. Spirit Sight. Let me double check. Spirit Sight. Spirit Sight. You know what this nation really wants to do? Is turn the lights off. Can we turn the lights off with this nation? Yes. These Astral Fire crosspath can cast Solar Eclipse and turn the lights off. Cool. So that might be my mid-game strategy is I'm going to transition from buffing these human troops to buffing these big sacred monsters and turning the lights off with Solar Eclipse. And on top of whatever bless I might have, Solar Eclipse, if you can't see in the dark, is a -3 to your attack and defense. If I can get enough of these guys, and this is dangerous, you need a lot, with a death random, you can actually cast Darkness with a Communion, and maybe Skull Staff and all that fun stuff. Or your Pretender God, who knows. But if you can cast Darkness, Darkness is a -6. And this Spirit Sight effect does not care about the dark. And these are also all, Spirit Sight also doesn't care about your invisible for your Jinn. Cool. So I think my game plan so far, you guys don't have to agree with me, and I haven't played a multiplayer game of TienChi yet. I've only seen them fail miserably. But so far, I can see my strategy being I'm just going to buff my human troops, and as mid-game comes around, I'm going to start buffing these sacreds, because earlier, remember, we have these wide mages that are going to get me the gem income to summon all of this crap. And there's, by the way, this guy exists. I probably don't recommend him, although if you cast Quickness on him, I would recommend, if you're going to get buff him, I would cast Quickness on him and Enlarge. And that's going to make him hit like a monster. You're like, people are lucky that this is one-handed. If this was two-handed, it would hit for so much more. But if you have this guy, you cast Larger, you cast Quickness, he has no encumbrance. He has no protection, but larger will give him a lot more hit points. Quickness will give him passable stats. If he does hit something, it will hurt. If you're dealing with elephants, this guy can go tank an elephant if you cast larger on him. Or if you have it in your bless, who cares? But importantly, it's also Spirit Sight. So if you're fighting someone, if you're fighting Ulm, this guy will tear up Ulmish troops, even Ulmish thugs, if they can't see in the dark, because these stats won't matter when the enemy has -6. And then Buffalo are great, and Tigers suck. Give or take. Give or take. We can agree to disagree if anything. What else we have? We have a Huli Jing. And again, I'm bad at editing, so I didn't really summon the inspector or open the inspector. I just summoned a few of them, and we can kind of see what paths that they like. That's really freaking high nature. What does high nature give us? Well, it gives us big battlefield-wide buffs like mass protection, mass regeneration. This one particularly can do Strength of Gaia and essentially be a nature 4 like this one. And importantly, there's a nature spell that requires Earth. Gaia's Blessing. It just gives you resistance across the board. This is huge. These are really expensive. They're like 30 nature. We'll look at the prices in a second. But having this high nature gives you a lot of battlefield-wide buff spells, which is already what our strategy is. Our strategy is go hit the person really, really hard with a stick, because we've buffed our troops with luck, body ethereal, moss body, quickness, strength of giants. And when we aren't doing that, maybe it's because we're using nobles that just run you over. Nobles won't benefit too much more from mass protection since they already have 5 here, but I'm sure they'll love the extra stats from quickness or legions of steel or any of that. They could be monsters. What else do we have? We have a combat spell, which I just did this. And there's nothing to write home about. Like, if you want to do memes, you can do memes. But really, this here is Phantasmal Army. It's just a reskinned Phantasmal Army for Death 1 and 1 Death Gem. Cool. That Death 1 mage that really didn't have anything to do, this is a really good, to me, this is a really good use of that Death Mage. You give him 2 Death Gems. He will cast once. He's going to fall asleep for a turn or two. He's going to wake up and cast it again. And you're going to suddenly have 40 of these little ghosts that are going to run forward and get killed. And why is that important? Well, it's going to give you more time to buff your troops. It's going to keep your troops away from the enemy a little longer. And that's important because now you can buff them more. It might not bait their evocations as much because they only have 1 hit point and the targeting system's not going to like that. But hey, it's a buffer for your troops so that these die and your troops don't. That's important. And for 1 death gem, 20 of these, I mean, the comparison is Phantasmal Army, and that is an Air 4 spell, or yeah, it's an Air 4 spell for the same thing. So yeah, if you want to do a meme bless around it, I won't stop you. But in terms of combat application, that's a really, really good national spell. It's Phantasmal Army by a Death 1 mage that costs me 70 gold, instead of an Air 4 mage, which what comes to mind are like Eagle Kings and Malika. That's huge. Okay, cool. So their national spells, they all seem to rock. And let me kind of screen through them. Heavenly Rivers. This is castable by national, your cap-only mages, and some of your Masters of the Ways can cast this. You get 3 for 12. It's great. Fire Astral, your cap-only mages can cast this. You get 3 for 6. That's great. Celestial Hounds, cap-only mage can cast this. 2 for 4, and Celestial Soldiers, 5 for 15. Great. I don't need some wonky pretender to cast my national spells. Oh, this is the Earth one, by the way. Sorry, guy. That it's even funny because of how bad the actual unit is. You get 1 for 1, but this path is actually hard to get on your Celestial Masters. It's a 1/4 random. So that's the only one that's kind of bad. And then nature spells, this is the Huli Jing. So nature 2, you can cast that. So all of your spells can be cast just by your national mages. No hoops to jump through. That's pretty good. Okay, what else do I look for in a nation? No, that's it. That's it. I've done most of it. From all of this information we've gathered, we can get a game plan. For me, I assign roles, and I've kind of hinted at this so far. I have roles for my units or my mages. And again, these two-handers are going to be anti-giant. The shield guy is going to combo with the archer to kill elves by shooting them with wind-guided flaming arrows until Arrow Fund comes up, of course. And then by then, I hope we have other means of killing elves, like our super crazy sacreds, or these guys casting Earth Meld, or Nature 1 indies casting Tanglevines. Who doesn't matter. We'll have more answers. Um, so we have these guys to kill elves and humans too. These guys to kill giants. We don't recruit our horsemen. We have sacreds to do sacred unit things because we already kind of want to bless. Our mid game is these sacred monstrosities we're summoning, so we do kind of want to bless, and we may or may not want to include Spirit Sight for this poor guy, because otherwise he can't see in the dark, even though all his sacred friends, sacred monster friends, can. This noble dude, he doesn't care about darkness because he's not swinging, he's trampling. Trampling is a defense check by the enemy. So he even likes, even though he doesn't have Spirit Sight, he really wants it to be dark because it lowers the enemy's defense skill. That's great. And he's going to lower his defense skill too. He might die. But hey, I mean, beggars can't be choosers. If both of you lose -6, it's a net even. But his actual attack skill doesn't matter because he's trying to trample you. That's really good to me. So those are kind of like the troop roles, the commander roles. I mean, noble commanders can raid like monsters. They're very efficiently. Two of these can take 10 PD plus. Maybe 20 might be pushing it, but for 210 gold and no gem investment, that's really good. Um, this guy's going to research for me. And why is that important? Well, that means I can get these guys to actually go fight for me, go buffing the troops. Same for all these other guys. It's just important that we have this idiot researching. Later on, once we're nearing the point where we don't need as much research, these guys can come out and cast Phantasmal Army, an Air 4 spell, for 1 Death Gem and Death 1. That's really good. They're going to cast that shit twice. That's really good. Throne Sutra, armor negating against undead and demons. Magic resistance negates. I mean, what? That's going to be 6 armor negating damage. I don't. Very low range, maybe. Who knows? Probably not. Ignore that. But yeah, so this guy has a role. He's going to research. Fair. Oh, and site search death. And bless people. All of that so that these guys don't have to. In pitched battles, I can have these guys join in to cast really big spells, to cast Divine Blessing, to do stuff, do rituals, site search for me as well, and the Holy 2, Astral 2 that I don't otherwise get. This guy's going to go out and site search, or if I'm doing a research build, he can do that. I hope this all makes sense. I hope this makes sense. I probably went it again. I failed again probably and went into too much detail on earliest TienChi, as opposed to the greater scheme that I want, which is teaching you guys what I look for in a nation and how I kind of partition how I'm going to play. Because this nation is commonly considered horrible, but I can see it doing stuff. It is very good at troop buffing, and it has very good troops worthy of being buffed. Now, is that its only, I guess, strategy that it can employ? Probably not. But it's the one that I see based on the way I look at a nation. Uh, and hopefully, as you guys look at the other nations that have maybe less narrow strategies, they can do different things. Uh, Hopefully, having seen me kind of dissect this, that helps you out. Just because, again, in the interim, my content will be slowing down a little bit. I apologize for that. I really want to do stuff for you guys, want to branch out other games or make a lot more of this kind of type of video. Um, but I can't right now, so I hope this kind of fits the bill in the meantime. And yeah, that I'll see you guys next time.